Hey family, it's your girl, Boss B, and welcome to the Ask a Bee Show, the place where your letters come to life. Every day, people write in with real questions about life, love, and everything in between. And together, we find hope, healing, and a whole lot of honesty. Because here on Ask a Bee, we don't just talk about problems, we talk about possibilities. So grab your tea, open your heart, and let's buzz into today's letters right here on the Ask a Bee Show. Hey guys. Okay, I know it looks different, but let me put this out here real quick. I told you before, I write these episodes impromptu, I guess. Um, Yesterday, I got a letter after the episode that I decided today I was going to have this. I've already played around with the idea of doing a little bit of music history, trivia, stuff like that. But then I received a letter. So I just want to say flat out, this is still a letter show. Okay. I'm not changing it too much, but we are going to dip into some music history today because I love it. And I'm thinking it needs to be more. So I'm probably just testing this one out on y'all. I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but I was really thinking Fridays would be a cool day to talk about some of the trivia that I've been talking about all week long and maybe dive in deeper to their stories. So before we spin this first artist on Jukebox Journey, I want folks to remember that we already touched on a little bit of on yesterday's Ask a Bee, pardon me. But today we're gonna get in there a little deeper, turning that tiny spark of trivia into, just a full-blown piece of music history because I love it. And I want to tell you too, pardon me, it's weather still in Texas. It affects me. Got my water, mama lines. Anyway, now I personally have some music background. Well, not just some. My mother and my grandmother were really adamant for me to be. I should have been Britney Spears, apparently. Okay. I do have a good voice. I'm not going to lie. When I try, I sound pretty good. I have tried out for a few shows, believe it or not. I have not made it yet, but it's probably because I'm too nervous when I'm talking and but I'm hoping that being here, that'll give me a little confidence. So when I'm ready to go and audition again, I may just do that. And then, hey, that'll be a whole new segment for Boss Man on the Iron Sharpening Iron universe, don't you think? Anyway, I'm old. I don't know when that'll happen. But so, okay, back to the story at hand. Everyone knows Janis Joplin blew the roof off a Piece of My Heart, right? But very few people know this. Before Janis ever stepped on stage with it, the song already carried an entire lifetime of heartbreak, grit, gospel, soul, and family history. And the woman holding all of that inside her voice was Irma Franklin, Aretha's older sister, right? The one that people kind of forgot, right? But the one who left fingerprints all over American music, whether folks really realized it or not. Irma grew up in a household where talent wasn't optional. Okay. It was the atmosphere. And her father, the legendary Reverend C.L. Franklin, was one of the most recorded preachers in American history. The Franklin home was basically a revolving door for gospel giants. Seriously. Sunday dinners filled with choirs, rehearsals. Oh my gosh, raw and unfiltered soul, right? Aretha, Carolyn, and Irma were raised in the kind of environment where music was as normal as breathing. But now Irma wasn't just Aretha's sister. Okay. She was the first Franklin daughter to land a record deal. She was the one who broke into secular music before Aretha did. And she carried that weight with the quiet strength of the oldest sibling. Now, the trailblazer, she was a trailblazer who rarely got the credit. So by 1967, Irma was working a regular job at IBM by every day. IBM, y'all, my girl. Okay, she can sing and she got a brain. Singing sessions by night. Okay, working at IBM during the day, singing sessions by night, living the life of a woman who had stopped waiting on fame and started building stability. But she still had a fire inside, okay? And it hadn't dimmed one bit. So when she stepped into the studio to record Piece of My Heart, she wasn't chasing it. She was putting her lived experiences into her song. And her version, it was raw and controlled and really honest and steady. It's really the sound of a woman who already knows what it means to give too much of herself and still find a way to stand tall. Now, her take on the song, it charted number 10 on the R&B charts, number 62 on the Billboard. Oh, they were respectable numbers for someone who wasn't being pushed into the industry, but it didn't explode. Not because it wasn't good, but because the world wasn't paying attention, right? To her, the way that they were paying attention to younger, wilder, more marketable voices. And absolutely no one at the time imagined that this same song would become a cultural earthquake in someone else's hands. Now, enter Janis Joplin, okay, the Texas girl, go Texas, with the cracked porcelain voice who could make joy and it sound like pain, right? And wow, pain sound like freedom. She was intense and brilliant and burning the candle at both ends. The kind of artist who didn't sing songs, she inhabited them. Okay, that's the only way to put it. Janis really stumbled on Irma's version the same way a lot of musicians did back then. Crate digging, listening, studying the voices before her. And when she heard the way Irma held back, that restraint, that softness, Janis understood something immediately. This song doesn't need to be quiet. It needs to be unleashed. And that she did. So Janis took what Irma built and ran straight into a storm with it, okay? Big Brother and Holding Company rearranged the song to match Janis's weather system of a voice. Scratchy, raw, grungy, perfect. It was so unique. So when she screamed, "Come on," into the microphone, the world didn't just hear it, the world felt it. I mean, really felt it, still feeling it. Y'all have to know, Janis is one of my utmost favorites. And yes, it has a lot to do with her being from Texas. Come on, y'all. So, here's what most people don't really know, okay? Irma Franklin loved Janis's version. She really did. She once said, listening to Janis sing her song was like watching someone else open a window I didn't know was there. That's an artist. Irma was absolutely to the core an artist. Okay. She also said Janis treated the song with respect. She didn't steal it, she amplified it. And when Janice's version went top 20, Irma's royalty checks started arriving in stacks, big enough to change her entire life. Okay. These royalties helped her for decades. Music history forgets her, but the paperwork didn't. Kind of like, Dolly and Whitney Houston. Just saying. Here's the piece that really ties the whole story into the soul of my jukebox journey. Both women, Irma and Janice, came from environments built on feeling, totally different worlds, different paths, different audiences, but the same truth. And let me just say, that is exactly what the iron sharpening iron universe is about, right? Different worlds, different paths, different audiences, but the same truth. Now, women with big voices and bigger hearts are the ones who reshape music. Even if only one of them gets their name in lights. She didn't have to have her name in lights. Her sister took it. That's okay. But she had something too. Janice's version is remembered as the definitive take. But Irma's version, and I encourage you to go listen to it over and over again, that was the blueprint. That was the original heartbreak, the quiet storm before the hurricane. And without Irma Franklin, Janis Joplin never would have found that song and turned it into one of the greatest rock vocals of all time. So today, before we move into the next artist in this chain, we're going to honor both of them, okay? 2 women, 2 voices, 1 song. Just one. Amazing. One thread that ties gospel, R&B, rock, soul, and female grit together in a way that still hits like, I don't know, a freight train nearly 60 years later, right? It's amazing. So, before we jump into it, okay, I've actually got this quick letter I wanted to read to you. And they just kind of slid it in the stack last night. It's short, it's sweet, and it fits perfectly, okay, with where we're headed next. But let's take a moment and read this one together. But I first, I just want to say to the writer of this letter, thank you. Your email really inspired this show today. And you know what? I'm having a good time already. Thank you. So here's your letter. Dear B, did Janice steal it? First off, let me get this running. Y'all, if you want to send an email in, please do. There are the 3 emails for the 3 major areas in the universe. We have Big Jack Storytime. He is the head and founder of the entire universe. And we have joined together for a ton of amazing spinoffs. And you can email any one of these and get either on the panel, possibly, if you like, or you know what, just write us an email if you want us to answer your questions. So, now here's your letter. Dear B, I've got a question for your journey, and I'm hoping you can clear this up. I heard someone say that Janis Joplin stole the song Piece of My Heart from Irma Franklin, and that Janis's version buried Irma's so deep, most people don't even know Aretha's sister recorded it first. Is that true? Did Janis really like Irma's shine like that? Or take Irma's shine like that? Pardon me. I'm terrible at reading sometimes. Or is that just music gossip people repeat without knowing the real story? Signed, Low-Key Mad at Janis. All right, first off, don't you be mad at Janis. Don't you be mad at any artist that's ever done a cover, okay? That's how they get there. And the artist from the cover that they're singing, they know that too. I mean, yeah. Now, I've kind of already covered it, but I want to make this record straight, okay? Did Janice steal it? Come on now. Let's go ahead and we'll set the record straight. Okay? These two right here. Because music history gets twisted fast when the louder version takes over. Piece of My Heart absolutely did not start with Janis Joplin. And the people who say she stole it, they usually don't realize how the music industry works in the late 60s, too. Okay. Irma Franklin, yes, Aretha's older sister, cut that song in 1967, a full year before Big Brother and the holding company even touched it. Her version, it wasn't just the original. It was a Billboard R&B hit. Okay. Grammy nominated and respected among soul musicians. Irma poured gospel, heartbreak, and grit into in a way only Franklin could. Okay. So let's be very clear. Irma didn't get overshadowed. Not at all. Because Janis didn't steal anything. She got overshadowed because the industry wasn't pushing Black women the same way they push white rock bands with major label promotions. Yeah, I said it. That's the real history. Okay? That's truth. Now, when Janis came along in 1968, she didn't take Irma's shine so much. Okay? As she exploded the song into a different universe, Janis was a powerhouse in the San Francisco scene. And when she walked into a studio with a band already backed by Columbus Records, marketing machine, yeah, everything she touched had a megaphone behind it. She reinterpreted the song from a rock blues kind of angle to a more raw, louder, and almost reckless in the way she ripped through the chorus. Okay. But here's the important truth. Janis adored the women who came before her, every single one of them, Black or white. Okay. She studied them. She honored them, lived inside their phrasing. She wasn't trying to erase Irma. She was trying to channel her. Okay. You can hear that influence in every wail. Janis didn't take Irma's shine. Columbia Records simply had a bigger spotlight to point in Janis's direction. What actually happened is what happens over and over in American music. A brilliant artist creates something powerful, and the world only hears it once. Somebody else performs it. It's a systematic pattern, guys, not a personal crime. Janis never claimed to have written Piece of My Heart either. She never pretended it wasn't Irma's. In fact, Janis talked openly about learning from Aretha, Bessie Smith, Odetta, Etta James, the whole lineage. Okay. Her voice was built on the bones of the women she revered. If anything, Janis's version kept the song alive long enough for later generations to rediscover Irma's take on it. And today, I'm sitting here telling you, go listen. You know, music historians, producers, and soul fans, pick me, all acknowledge Irma's version as the foundation. So did Janis. So did she steal it? No, my friend, she most certainly did not steal it. Janis didn't steal a damn thing. Okay? What happened was the machine around her was louder and better funded. That's all. Irma deserved more credit, more airplay, and way more respect than she got for it. But Janice, she didn't take it from her. The industry never gave it to her in the first place. It's true. One woman made the blueprint, the other built a skyscraper on top of it. Both versions mattered. Both versions are legendary in their own lane. And if anything, Jukebox Journey is here to make sure Irma Franklin's flowers get delivered properly, even if they're a few decades late. Okay? Now listen. Before we turn the page, and let me get a drink because it's dry here right now, even though we had record rain. Ugh. Let me say this. We touched on Irma and Janice and everything, and how, a quiet soul in the background can end up shaping a whole generation without ever standing in the spotlight. That's the beauty of music history. These invisible bridges that they connect artists who never met or never collaborated, and sometimes never even knew the ripple effect they created. And now that we've followed Janice from Port Arthur to Monterey and beyond, it's the perfect time to widen that lens. Because the next story we're stepping into isn't just connected to Janice through influence. It's connected through raw emotion, the kind of, soul deep storytelling that crosses genres and generations. Now, one artist's pain became another artist's blueprint. One voice cracks open a door and someone else walks through it with a whole different sound, right? Now, that's the thread we're pulling next. This one takes us, it really takes us right into a completely different world. The world of soulful Southern rock ballads that carried the same unfiltered truth that Janice became famous for, but wrapped in a sound no one saw coming, right? So let's shift. Take a deep breath. I'm going to. Got to walk right into this next chapter of the journey, because this artist didn't just get inspired by Janice's emotion. He took that same unpolished honesty and rewired it into a whole new lane. And that lane became one of the most defining American sounds of all time. So, Otis Redding. Yes, Otis, my man. If we're going to follow the lineage of raw soul power from Janice to the next legend in line, then there's only one natural stop on this road. Otis Redding. And look, I know earlier we talked about Irma Franklin and Janice, so let me make this crystal clear for the folks who just walked in. The magic of music doesn't live in isolated boxes. These artists influenced each other, okay? They learned from each other, and sometimes they carried each other's songs further than the original writer ever dreamed. And if you want to talk about a ripple effect, you cannot talk about Janice without talking about Otis, period. Because Otis wasn't just a soul singer. He was a blueprint, a truth teller, a man who didn't just perform a song, okay? He lived it right in front of you. And that's exactly why Janice studied him. Seriously. Go back and listen, okay? Go back and listen to early Janice vocals, even on grainy bootlegs, all right? You'll hear it. The phrasing, the cracks in the voice, the way she'd throw the emotion out first and worry about pitch second, okay? Straight out of the Otis playbook. She once said that hearing Otis for the first time, she felt like she was being told the truth by somebody brave enough to say it. Otis came hard. He did. He came up hard. Born in Dawson, Georgia in 1941. He grew up poor. working with his hands, hauling whatever needed hauling, doing whatever needed doing. His daddy was a sharecropper and gospel preacher. Pardon me. His mama cleaned houses. And Otis, before he ever hit a stage, was the kid banging rhythm patterns on anything that stood still long enough. His teachers said he hummed more than he talked. He was shaped by church choirs, street corners, and long Georgia summers where the music lingered heavier than the humidity. Now, by the time he made his way into the orbit of Stax Records in Memphis, the holy ground of Southern soul, right? He was polished. He wasn't polished. He was undeniable. He was. There are stories of session musicians stopping mid-take, staring at him like, where the hell did that come from, man? His voice carried this ache that couldn't be faked, and a kind of longing that made, grown men go quiet and women in the audience just put a hand over their heart because they felt it too deep to clap for a second. Let me tell you, Otis Redding was a worker. People see the big hits, the iconic moments, the Monterey Pop performance that basically baptized the entire West Coast into Southern soul, but they don't see the grind. Now, that man would rehearse until his shirt was drenched, and then he'd rehearse again. He would rewrite verses in motel rooms, humming through walls at 3 a.m. He'd jot down lyrics, ideas on receipts and napkins. He recorded take after take until he felt the soul was right. Not the pitch, the soul. Now, here's the part people forget, though. Okay? But here on this journey, I'm here to give it to you, the whole truth. Janis Joplin patterned her own Monterey Pop performance after watching Otis the night before. She watched him command that stage like a preacher in a revival tent. No gimmicks, no pyrotechnics, okay? Just raw energy and total honesty. And she said that right there was how music was supposed to feel. The next night, she stepped out and gave the world ball and chain. And the rest was absolute history. Okay, here's the heartbreak and the lesson wrapped together. Otis Redding died at 26 years old in a plane crash right after recording what would become his signature masterpiece, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. 26 years old. He was younger than Janis when she died. Younger than Irma Franklin when she wrote Piece of My Heart. And you know what? Younger than most people when they figure out who they are. And yet somehow he left fingerprints on the entire future of soul and rock and blues and every artist who heard him and said, oh, that's what truth sounds like. Pardon me. And that's why this journey is working for me. Okay, because music isn't separate lanes. It's a long, winding road. Gravel, dirt, and asphalt all mixed together, where one artist hands the spark to the next without ever even meeting them. Janis carried Otis's spark, and the next artist that we're going to, they carried it too, in ways their audience never even realized. And that, my friends, brings us to the next chapter in this lineage. Okay? If Otis Redding was the raw flame of Southern soul, then let me tell you, Etta James, that voice. Etta James was the slow burning ember that could simmer and scorch or soothe on command, right? From the moment that her voice enters the room, even now, decades after her passing, you feel it in your ribs and then in your throat and the back of your eyes. And Etta wasn't just a singer. She was, oh my gosh, she was a force of nature. She lived every lyric the way that Otis lived every note. And just like Otis, her career was totally shaped through the same musical ecosystem: gospel roots, R&B highways, segregated uh, Chitlin. I don't know how I got this in here. Anyway, the gritty California studios that stacked hit after hit until she became a household name. All right. The connection, that shared soul lineage, it's exactly why she's our next stop on the journey. Etta's early life could fill its own show. Okay. Born, I hope I say this right, Jamesetta Hawkins in 1938. She grew up believing her mother might never come back, a ghost like figure drifting in and out of her childhood, leaving Etta in the hands of adopted caretakers who did their best but couldn't shelter her from the streets or the music or the fight she'd been forced into before she ever held a microphone. Now, by the time she was 5, her gospel voice was so powerful that grown men in the church thought the Lord himself was stepped into this little girl's lungs. But talent doesn't erase pain. And Etta's life, pardon me, Etta's life became a tug of war between being wanted on stage and forgotten everywhere else. You know, her, hush, Mo, pardon my puppy. Um, her break, it came early, too early probably, when she started singing doo-wop at 14 and lied about her age to start recording. That is Etta James in one sentence. Too young for her life, too old for her wounds, and too gifted to ever stop. You know, her first hit, The Wallflower, got her through the door. But it was her thunderstorm in human form voice that kept her there, you know. And this is where the Otis connection tightens. They were label mates, genre siblings, and a part of a community of artists reshaping American music from the ground up while fighting through the same industry exploitation and racial barriers, touring dangers, and personal demons. And they crossed paths on the same circuits, okay, played on the same bills and shared the same circle of musicians who spoke about them with equal awe. But the true fireworks moment, the one that lives forever, came in 1960 when Etta recorded what might be the most recognizable vocal performance in American history. At last, yeah, it was at last. The orchestra just swelled. The world stopped, and Etta planted her flag as the queen of crossover soul. What Otis did with sound grit or soul grit, pardon me, she did with romantic gravity. Now you can feel Otis's fingerprints all over the emotional arcs that she bends. The blend of vulnerability and command, the willingness to stretch a moment until it's nearly snaps, you know, they were cut from the same cloth, stitched by the same needle. And here's the part most people don't know. Okay. Otis adored Etta's voice, and Etta adored Otis's raw storytelling voice. Now, musicians from Stax and Chessboard or Chess Records talked about how the The two influenced each other's phrasing in small but powerful ways, like cousins in the same artistic bloodline. Now, when Otis died at 26, Etta said it felt like a piece of the soul era had vanished. Only another soul giant could say it like that. Only she could feel that shift, really. Now, her later career was a war, addiction, abusive relationships, industry neglect, and a voice that threatened to give out, but somehow came back stronger every time. She rose through every chapter, reshaping herself again and again. Blues icon, R&B matriarch, jazz interpreter, rock powerhouse, right? And finally, okay, a Hall of Fame legend who outlived nearly everyone from her generation. Now, while Otis became immortal through tragedy, Etta became immortal through survival. So, as we continue the journey today, it only makes sense that after honoring Otis's passion and grit and timeless impact, we now turn to Etta. Okay, pardon me. I'm so bad today. Now, Etta, the woman who could shake a microphone until the stand rattled, then soothe a broken heart with a total whisper the very next breath. If you want to understand soul music, you must walk through both their stories. And today we're going to step into hers. Now, when we step from Etta James into the next room of American history, okay, the air changes just a bit. It gets warmer, a little thicker, richer, like someone dimmed the lights and poured a little truth into the room. That was Ray Charles effect. Okay. Now, it makes perfect sense to land here next because both Otis and Etta grew in the shadow of this man, studying his phrases, stealing his fire, pardon me, and learning how to turn raw emotion into something structured. Forgive me. Trying to avoid this and not put candy in my mouth. Okay. So if Otis brought church into the juke joint, Ray brought the whole gospel choir. Okay. Ray Charles Robinson. He was born in 1930 in Albany, Georgia, and from the start of his life was marked by hardship. Forgive me. So, this is terrible. Okay, he went blind at the age of 7, but instead of retreating inward, he expanded outwards. He didn't just hear music; he saw it with his whole body. He did. Every sound, every vibration, every rhythm had shape, color, movement. And you hear it in every note he ever recorded. Now, today we look back and call Ray Charles the father of soul, but back then people didn't know what to do with him. He was too gospel for R&B, too blues for church, too, I don't know, innovative for radio. So, guess what though? Yeah. Ray Charles never lived in a box. He broke them. Ray is the one who cracked open the door that Etta James walked through. When she recorded At Last, she borrowed heavily from Ray's slow burn delivery. That song, emotional vocal run on words like mine and time. Pardon me. Before Etta ever belted her heartbreak into a microphone, she watched Ray. and he turned hymns into hits. And then she followed him boldly, pardon me. Mm, I need more water. In fact, okay, Ray and Etta shared the same producers at points in their careers, which is why their arrangements feel like cousins, kind of lush strings, slow bass, swelling horns, and that signature push and pull tension. It's musical storytelling. And it traces straight back to Ray. Now, uh, let's talk about how Ray Charles tied into Otis Redding, because this is where the threaded jukebox journey really pulls tight, I think. When Otis was young, living in Macon, Georgia, he used to sneak into clubs to, just to listen to musicians imitate Charles, right? Those local bands studied Ray's piano lines and they copied his licks note for note. Otis observed it and then absorbed it. Okay, you can hear it clearly in Redding's early songs. Those little yells at the end of a phrase, the sudden emotional jumps, the way the voice cracks when open like a broken heart, all Ray. And Otis would later say in an interview that Ray showed us you didn't have to hide the pain. That was a quote. Now, that was the key. Ray Charles gave other artists permission to feel on tape, okay? Ray Charles also crossed musical boundaries at a time when nobody dared to. He mixed blues with jazz and jazz with gospel, country with R&B. And when he released when he released I Can't Stop Loving You, country stations were furious. They were, until it hit number 1. And then it stayed there for 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Ray didn't just open the door for artists of color to enter the country music. He walked in, rearranged the furniture, and made himself a home. Heck yeah. And decades later, Otis Redding covered country songs with pride. He sure did. Y'all don't forget Charlie Pride either. My man. Etta James recorded country-influenced ballads, okay? And Janis Joplin, her entire vocal style came from the blues gospel fusion Ray pioneered. Everything ties back. Ray Charles was also one of the first artists to fight for artistic control of his master recordings. And that was a battle that musicians still fight today, okay? He told Atlantic Records, no. Yep. Just like he talked about it in today's Ask a Bee theme yesterday. Yep. Yesterday's, pardon me. The power of saying no. And when he did, he walked away and got better deals. Ray refused to be owned, and that refusal shaped the future of music economics. Hey, Oso. Hi, Patty. Good to see you, my friends. Sorry, I'm talking through this one like crazy. It's so fun, though. All right. So, Ray refused to be owned, right? That refusal shaped everything. But beyond all the history, here's the real threat. Ray Charles taught every artist who came after him the music isn't just entertainment. It's survival. It's a testimony. It's the place where sorrow transforms into something beautiful. And Janis needed that. Janis needed that. Now, Otis lived that, okay? Etta breathed it. And Ray Charles is the reason that they all could. By the time we finished listening to Ray, we understand the assignment, right? You don't sing to sound good. You sing because you lived something. Okay? Now, we walked through Ray Charles' world, his gospel soaked blues, his insistence on, breaking every rule in the book just because the book wasn't good enough. Okay. It's time to turn the page just a little bit and step into the life of a woman whose voice didn't just shake a decade, it took the entire definition of American music. And that makes her the perfect step or perfect next stop on this journey and it's simple. If Ray was the architect, Aretha was the crown on top of the cathedral. He opened the door, she walked right through it, took the entire room over, rewired the lights, rearranged the furniture, and then said, "This is mine now." And the music world totally listened. Okay. Aretha Franklin was born into a world where sound wasn't just music, it was ministry, just like her sister, right? It was medicine, it was inheritance and expectation. Now, her father, C.L. Franklin, wasn't just a preacher, he was the preacher, a man whose sermons were recorded, distributed like albums, and sold across the country. So imagine being 5, 6, 7 years old and growing up in a home where someone's singing in your kitchen and sitting in your living room, and your father's house is filled with some of the greatest gospel voices that ever lived. Aretha didn't learn music, she absorbed it like breath. She picked up chords the way other kids picked up crayons. Her natural sense of phrasing, her instincts, her timing, they weren't taught. They were inherited muscle memory. Generational artistry passed through the bloodline. It had to be. Here's something, people they forget. Aretha wasn't famous as a gospel singer first. She didn't hit at Motown first. She didn't break through at Atlanta first or Atlantic first. She started at Columbia, and Columbia, Lord help them, they had no idea what to do with her. They tried to turn her into a jazzy torch singer. They sat her at a piano like some smoky lounge performer and said, "Just sing it clean. Sing it pretty." They wanted it polished. They wanted refinement. They wanted control. What they got was a volcano wearing a silk dress, being told not to erupt. No, no. And she didn't, at least not yet. But you can hear it. Even in those early Columbia recordings, that low hum, that I'm holding back more than I'm releasing, tension that only true greats have. Her voice was a lion behind a curtain, pacing, waiting. Hello, Big Jack. Hello, hello. Now, running out of water. And then, okay, came the moment, the turning point, right? The introduction that changed everything. Aretha meets Jerry Wexler. Now, Wexler wasn't trying to turn her into anything she wasn't. He didn't want her to light a fire. He wanted to pour gasoline on it. He said, look, let's stop pretending you're a singer who plays piano. You're a pianist who sings. Okay, we're building around your instincts. And this one shift, this tiny little adjustment in perspective was like cutting the leash on the lion. Okay, they went down to Muscle Shoals. The Swampers started laying the groove, and Aretha sat at the piano like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to tell her, go ahead and let it rip. And you know what? She sure did. That's how I never loved a man happened. That's how respect happened. That's even how Dr. Feelgood, Chain of Fools, Do Right Woman, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. They all came roaring into the world in one breathtaking creative explosion. She didn't just reclaim her voice, okay? She re-engineered soul music with one hand on the piano and the other one on history's throat. But let's talk about the part that people forget, okay? The part that ties this entire journey together. Remember now, Janice and Irma Franklin, how one sister wrote a song and the other turned into a rock and roll anthem. Well, Aretha was the glue in the middle of that entire musical web. Irma wasn't just her sister, she was her mirror. Their voices carried the same gospel backbone, the same church without asking permission. Power, okay? Janice idolized Aretha. Her entire vocal style, that raspy, emotional, tear the walls down sound, was rooted in what Aretha brought to mainstream radio. Now, here's where the chain tightens up. Aretha was also deeply connected to Etta James, sometimes as a rival and sometimes as a quiet influence. Now, the industry always wanted to compare the two, right? But the truth is, they were playing two different sports with the same ball. Etta was raw, blues, pure fire, right? Aretha was precision lightning, strike exactly where she intended. And you know what? Once she hit, nothing grew in that spot ever again. Believe it. But the biggest bridge, okay, the one that connects this segment back to the last, is Ray Charles. He called Aretha the best singer in the world, period. Think about that. Ray Charles, who created an entire genre, who fought the world with his voice and his vision, who broke segregation with music alone. That Ray Charles bowed to her talent. And she bowed right back because she understood what he gave her, the freedom to be uncontainable. And if we're being real, and ask a bee, never sugarcoats, right? Aretha she had battles that people barely understood, okay? She had tantrums, pardon me. It's my phone today, y'all. It's going nuts, and I have no clue why. All right. She had trauma and heartbreak, expectations that would crush anyone else. She had years where her voice was her only weapon, and years where it was her only shield, too. Now, every time she stepped up to the microphone, every single time, you could hear her entire life inside one note. The pain, the inheritance, the gospel, the rebellion, the truth. You know, That's why Aretha fits exactly where here in this journey. Okay. Listen, besties, because she wasn't just a singer, she was a pivot point in music evolution. The moment, the very moment soul grabbed pop by the collar and said, I live here now. The moment women in music realized they could lead a band, command a room, and demand producers get out of their way. The moment that Black artists saw the mainstream open a door that had been locked for decades. Ray influenced the shape. Aretha became the standard. Etta carried the storm. Otis carried the sorrow. Janice carried the fire. And Aretha, hey, Aretha carried the crown. And, when she put it down, nobody else ever really picked it back up because it didn't belong to anyone else. I think we know that for sure. So, now, after hydrating, besties, this one is rich because if you're walking the path from Etta James to Aretha Franklin, the road naturally bends towards one man whose voice could melt metal and whose life story swings between gospel, soul, heartbreak, redemption, and outright miracle territory. Y'all ready? Al Green. And this isn't just music history, okay? It's the kind of story you feel in your bones, and it's perfect for this journey. Now let's get into this one. Al Green grew up in Forest City, Arkansas, and one of 10 children, okay, in a poor sharecropping family, raised on gospel harmonies and sweat and the kind of spirituality that comes from having nothing but voice and faith. Now, his father ran a family gospel group called the Green Brothers, and young Al was expected to sing God's music and nothing else. But Al had a rebellious streak early. He secretly listened to Jackie Wilson, Elvis, James Brown, all the music he wasn't allowed to love. And when his father caught him listening to Jackie Wilson's Lonely Teardrops, Al was kicked out of the house at 14 years old. 14. Already a voice like velvet, okay? Already a spirit too bright to contain. And here's where destiny takes over. Green fell into the world of soul, not by design, but by survival, okay? He started traveling, performing with little regional groups, scraping by on talent alone until Willie Mitchell, the legendary producer at High Records, heard him singing in a tiny Texas club. Hometown for me. Go Texas. Mitchell said immediately, this is the voice. I'll make him a star. And he did. Oh my gosh, y'all. Mitchell taught Al how to restrain his voice, how the softness could be even more powerful than the high notes. That's how they crafted the unmistakable Al Green sound. Now, minimal instruments, a gentle groove, barely their horns, and Al floating right on top like a prayer whispered through smoke, And then came the run of hits that was shaped modern soul. Let's Stay Together. Tired of Being Alone. I'm Still in Love with You. Love and Happiness. These weren't just songs, guys. These were templates for how romance should sound, right? Every R&B singer after him borrowed from that blueprint, knowingly or not. Close, Sam, yeah. Patty says, I was guessing Sam Cooke. Much love for Al Green. He is so good. Yes. Yes. We love, love, love Al Green and Sam Cooke. Let me tell you. Now, these weren't just songs. They were templates for how romance should sound. Every R&B singer after him borrowed from that blueprint, knowingly or not, right? Okay, here's the part most people miss and what makes him an essential chapter after Aretha Franklin. Both of them balanced between gospel and soul. Both walked that blurred line between sacred and secular. And you know what? Both were constantly pulled by faith while trying to express the human side of love. They were masters of the same duality, the church and the nightclub, and they never, ever fully left one for the other. Their music was a reflection of that tension, passion wrapped in prayer. Then, the turning point. In 1974, Al Green was attacked by a former girlfriend in one of those most infamous incidents in music history, right? The hot grits attack. My goodness. Pardon me. All right. After she inflicted third-degree burns on his back and his arms, she tragically took her own life and in his home. That moment really shattered him, guys. Green said it felt like a divine wake-up call. It was a message that he needed to realign his path. And from that moment on, he turned back to gospel music, becoming an ordained pastor and dedicating himself to the Full Gospel Tabernacle Church in Memphis, where he still occasionally shows up and sings. Right? Now, here's the kicker. Even after devoting himself to ministry, his influence on modern music didn't dim, it exploded. An entire generation of artists, from Annie Lennox, Mary J. Blige, Justin Timberlake, Bruno Mars, carry his sound in their phrasing, their riffs, their falsetto work, their softness. Everybody borrows from Al Green, even when they don't realize it. Thank you, Big Jack. I'm sitting here watching the watchers gauge, and I'm yeah. We're having a good day, aren't we? All righty. So that's why he fits beautifully into our jukebox journey flow. Okay. We went from Janice to Irma to Otis to Etta to Aretha and now Al Green. The bridge between gospel, soul, heartbreak, and spiritual rebirth. This segment alone will carry 15 plus minutes when just reading one thing about one person, it takes up a whole show. And I can't finish this show. We are past our hours, what I'm trying to say. Make sure to hit the like button. Yes, please do. Guys, I can't finish this show without this last artist, okay? Because I think we all know that these two kind of went hand in hand, right? When you transition from Al Green into, here we go, Marvin Gaye, okay? The man who turned soul into a prayer. You aren't just crossing from one soul legend to another, okay? You're stepping directly into the beating heart of American music. Marvin wasn't simply a singer. He was an interpreter of the human condition. Okay. And in the same way that Al Green brought gospel yearnings into secular love songs, Marvin took raw emotion, the kind that lives under your ribs, and it's turned into a melody that still feels like confession and lament and devotion and testimony all at once, right? If Al Green was the warm candlelight glow in the sanctuary, Marvin Gaye was the stained glass window at the sunset, okay? Vivid, honest, and impossible to ignore. Now, Marvin Gaye's musical roots are tangled and deep. Like Al, he grew up under heavy religious influence, but his father was a strict Pentecostal preacher whose iron sharp edges shaped Marvin's yearning to escape, to express, and to finally breathe. Just finally breathe. Truly the queen of soul. Absolutely. So that longing and that ache, it sits right inside songs that's like What's Going On, Distant Lover and Mercy, Mercy Me, one of my favorites. And that what's wild is that the album What's Going On almost didn't exist. Motown didn't want it. Berry Gordy thought it was too political, too depressing, too uncommercial. Now, Marvin had hit that point in his life and in his artistry where he refused to sing one more love song while the world outside was falling apart. This was the same moment Al Green was asking whether to stay in the secular world at all. Let's see, Patty says Marvin Gaye, just the best of the best. He really conveys the feeling so well. You can just feel what he is trying to say. Amen, sis. That is exactly the truth. Exactly. And, I think a lot of people feel that too. What Marvin, gosh, I'm sorry. This was the same moment that Al Green was asking whether to stay. But soul music was fracturing and transforming at the same time, and Marvin became the very center of that evolution. And here's where Marvin and Al Green intersect more tightly than most people realize. They both carried the weight of spiritual unrest. Both men were torn between the pulpit and the microphone. Both felt guilt woven between every lyric, and both of them sang like men. They were trying to make peace with themselves, right? And if you listen to certain recordings closely, especially Marvin's I Want You era, Al Green's Call Me era, you can actually hear the similarity in phrasing, right? The slow burn, the pleading tone, the emotional nakedness that most artists are too afraid to show. They were like two sides of the same vinyl record, one leaning towards ministry, the other leaning towards activism, both wrapped in soul so rich that it still stops you in mid-sentence when it comes on. I can't not sway. Oh, thank you. Big Jack, that's very kind of you to say. I really appreciate you. Yeah, now you got me all flushed and flustered. Okay, we're getting back into this one though, because we're almost done with this show, and I'm kind of sad about that. I'm really loving this show right now, and it's because music history is one of my things. Okay, so Marvin Gaye's biggest legacy isn't just the songs Though he gave us some of the greatest soul tracks ever recorded, it's that he changed the expectation of what music should do. Before Marvin, soul was love, heartbreak, and dance floors. After Marvin, soul could also be protest, grief, social commentary, environmental warnings, spiritual lament, emotional therapy, right? He stretched the genre so far that Al Green, Isaac Hayes, Curtis Mayfield, and Stevie Wonder found new lanes because he showed it was possible, right? Man, if we're talking about connections, deep historical connections, Marvin is the bridge that ties the civil rights era soul of Aretha and Ray Charles to the romantic neo soul of later generations. Without Marvin Gaye, there is no Luther Vandross. There's no D'Angelo. There is no Maxwell. There's no Leon Bridges, no Sam Smith singing with gospel. Ache, seriously. No Weekend, using pain like poetry. None of it. Marvin planted the blueprint. Of course, his personal life was very stormy. The fame, the drugs, the pressure, the trauma from childhood, it all built up into a tidal wave he never fully outran. And yet, even in the middle of that chaos, he recorded tracks with such tenderness. You'd swear he was whispering directly into your soul. That's why Marvin's story always hits the heart, right? It's beautiful, it's tragic, it's messy, it's brilliant because it's human. That's what Ask Me Show is all about, isn't it? Now, that brings us to the toughest part, okay? Marvin Gaye's final chapter. His life ended the day before his 45th birthday. After a confrontation with his father, I think we know the story, but the very man whose voice, control, and expectations had shadowed Marvin's entire life. It was a tragedy that echoed through every corner of music, every single genre, every bit of it. Because the man who gave us Let's Get It On, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Sexual Healing, and What's Going On was still evolving, still experimenting, still reaching for something so much bigger. And even today, the world gets overwhelming. Marvin's voice still rises like a prayer, asking the same question he posed in 1971. Who's willing to stand up and make things right? Now, that question alone cements why Marvin Gaye belongs right here on this journey. Because great music doesn't just sound good, it stays relevant. It teaches, it warns, it confronts. It becomes a living document of who we were and who we would be, right? Marvin did that with a level of honesty that no one has ever truly duplicated. So, as we roll from Al Green into Marvin Gaye, what we're really doing is shifting genres, eras, and emotional landscapes. But keeping the thread alive, the power of voice, the influence of gospel roots, the tension between sacred and secular, and the way music becomes the place where the things we can't say out loud finally find their way into the world, right? So now we're gonna slide into the home stretch of the musical road trip we just took. Okay, just take a breath with me here. We've moved through generations and genres, heartbreaks, breakthroughs, and voices that shaped entire eras, right? And somehow they all link together like one long, soulful breadcrumb trail. Before I close this journey for the day, I want to pull the spotlight back for just a second and gather up everything we just walked through, okay? Because the beauty of a journey like this isn't just the artists. It's the way their stories echo with each other, how the music really carries their fingerprints forward, and how every connection we uncovered today reminds us that nothing in music, nothing happens in isolation. It's always of it's one artist is they're sharpening another, iron sharpening iron in the music world, one voice inspiring the next. So before I send y'all out the door, let me wrap this up a little bit the way a good DJ should, I suppose. Okay, this is look, we're bringing this full circle in today's journey. A whole hour of stories, sounds, struggles, triumphs, and the human fingerprints behind the music that shaped generations. What I love most about doing this show isn't just the facts or the history, it's the reminder that every artist we talked about today carried something from someone else. Influence isn't a straight line, it's a chain reaction. Okay. Irma inspired Janice. Otis pushed Etta to her rawest honesty. Etta sharpened Ray Charles. Ray lit a fire under Aretha. Aretha opened the door for Al Green. And you helped me carry that chain one link further just by being here. That's why this show matters, because music isn't just sound. It's family, it's roots, it's legacy, it's something passed down. The same the same way we do here every single day at noon. And we just got another member, Patty Friend. I love you, honey. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Now, oh, before I take this mic away for this afternoon, let me remind you that Ask a Bee is open 24/7. If you've got a question, a confession, story, a bless their heart letter, a family mess that needs sorting, okay, or even a music is this true mystery like the one we answered today, listen, send it in. Please send it in. You can email your letters anytime and I will get them, or Big Jack will get them. We all will get them. I promise you. Fridays are Full Circle Friday too. Okay. Or pardon me. Saturdays. Tomorrow we are going to bring in another letter or two from people that we've already read their letters online. I do have a few more and I want to share that. So tomorrow, that's what our show is going to be about. Okay. Now, your letters are the heartbeat of this entire universe, not just Ask a Bee. And you matter here in every bit of this universe. And if you're new, welcome to the ISI universe, the Iron Sharpening Iron family of creators, hosts, and storytellers. Big Jack, Mama Lions, Walt Talks, they're all a part of this bigger world, and we're building it brick by brick. Okay? When you support this show, you support them. When you support them, you support me. When you support me, you're supporting the entire community we're building across all our live streams and our channels. And yes, the merch is live. It is. It is. Y'all have to go get your merch. Please go get your merch. You need to get your merch. Okay. Now, the B shirts, they're out there. See, I got mine. But we have so many other shirts and we have other mugs and lots of things coming. If you want to support the channel and help us keep all these shows running every single day, though, grab something from the shop, would you please? It helps more than you know. And every single order makes a real world difference. Okay? Finally, make sure you watch The Lady's Diary. Ask a Bee weekday, full episodes in full, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Watch the Iron Sharpening Iron shows, please. Share them, like them. Our collab buttons are on. The shows are running on 3 networks now, and the momentum we build today decides the high we fly tomorrow. We're building a universe here, you guys. And every time you show up, you are part of that story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up when I do. Thank you for making this little corner of the internet a place where curiosity, kindness, laughter, music, and truth all get to exist in the same room. I'm B. This has been our journey, and I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, same heart. Just a brand new adventure waiting to begin. Love you guys. Thank you so much.